I stand corrected. I thought that this episode was going to be boring as hell. I believed that Din Djarin would go on an errand to fetch a new memory drive for IG-11 because he still needed a droid to help him explore Mandalore due to its possible poisonous atmosphere. I thought that Bo-Katan probably wouldn't be seen again until the end of this season, as her attitude at the end of the first episode made it seem like they were writing her out of the show. I thought we would have to sit through multiple filler episodes before we even got to Mandalore. I was wrong on all three accounts, and gladly so. This episode, titled The Mines of Mandalore, is fantastic if you're someone who enjoys Star Wars lore like myself. Getting into the plot, Din Djarin visits Pelimato on Tatooine looking for a memory circuit for IG-11. Unfortunately, she doesn't have any, but instead, she sells him the astromech R5, which can co-pilot a starfighter and test Mandalore's atmosphere. So I guess that means IG-11 will stay dead, which personally I'm okay with. Fun fact, R5-D4 is the same droid that Owen Lars almost bought in The New Hope before Luke Skywalker noticed that he was malfunctioning. R5 would eventually serve in the rebellion somehow before ending up with Pelimato. She even mentions that he was meant to pilot starfighters and quote-unquote fight tyranny. When Din initially shows up, she asks him if the Hutts are back or if he will take out Boba Fett, which to me makes it seem like possibly Boba Fett has become a despotic ruler since the end of the Book of Boba Fett. Tatooine is also celebrating Boonta Eve, which in Legends is a celebration of the Hutt Boonta Hastilik Shadru and his speech before his victory against Zim the Despot. Every year, slaves would renew their vows to obey their masters and be given gifts and feasts in return. Strangely, the canon version bypasses all that and is simply a celebration of Boonta's ascension to godhood. Surprisingly, Din Djarin and Grogu head to Mandalore within the first 10 minutes of the episode. When they get there, Din tells Grogu that every Mandalorian can trace the roots back to Mandalore, which I'm sure he means metaphorically as he has never been there, nor did he descend from Mandalorians. Instead, Din Djarin was raised by Mandalorians on the moon Concordia after his parents died. Concordia was home to the Death Watch, an ultra-militaristic sect of the Mandalorians who held to the old ways and resented the population of Mandalore proper for embracing peace and comfort. The entire atmosphere of Mandalore is covered in storms, and once their starfighter breaks through the chaff, they see Mandalore, a completely desolate landscape of cracked earth with hardly any recognizable ruins. The planet's magnetic fields have also been altered due to the fusion bombs dropped by the Empire. But after R5 completes a scan, he discovers that the atmosphere isn't poisoned, like many Mandalorians believe, which gives Din hope that there is no curse on Mandalore. On their way down to the mines, Din fights Alamites, a species which used to live in the wastelands of Mandalore before they purge. And they actually remind me a lot of the Tals from Pantora or even the Predator, which I know is not part of the Star Wars universe, but it might have provided inspiration. Din Djarin gets caught in a trap and is caged by a creature that immediately made me think of General Grievous. It has some biological parts, but the majority of its body is mechanical. There's no way this thing could have beaten Din Djarin in a fair fight if it didn't sneak up on him with this giant mech suit. Grogu does try to save Din, but is chased away by the creature, so Grogu goes to Casavala and enlists the aid of Bo-Katan. At this point in the episode, I was once again surprised. I didn't think that we would see her character again so soon, let alone her having this much screen time. Bo-Katan is led by Grogu back into the Civil Center where Din is and frees him, who I guess was having his blood removed or plasma or something. Perhaps that's how the cyborg creature gets its nutrients since it doesn't seem to have a mouth. And I didn't expect some big thing out of this, but I was genuinely curious about the cyborg creature and wish that I had learned something more about it. This creature is basically an eye with a brain, and somehow it's attached itself to mechanical parts, or possibly someone else did. I think there is a story there somewhere. Bo-Katan had some badass fight scenes in this episode too. I don't mean fake Galadriel badass where she inexplicably kills a troll that 5 other elves couldn't kill together. Bo-Katan is badass, but she is shown defeating enemies that she could realistically take out. So it seems like maybe Star Wars knows how to do a female character correctly this time. While Din treats going to the Mines of Mandalore like he's a dwarf seeing the Mines of Moria for the first time, Bo-Katan treats it like she's giving a tour of a theme park that she's been to hundreds of times and no longer has any magic for her. She explains that when she was young, she went through the ritual of taking the creed and bathing in the waters as a member of royalty. She went through the motions, but didn't really believe in it, because to her it was just theater. When she tells Din that her father did believe in the ritual, that he was a great man who died defending Mandalore, Din says, "This is the way." To which Bo Katan responds with a blank stare, though I can't tell if she looked at him in wonder or she was insulted. It's also interesting when she says, in regards to the Empire's attack on Mandalore, that the Mandalorians had, quote unquote, no hope to resist being smashed by the fist of the Empire. I think the no hope part is interesting because Mandalore wasn't part of the rebellion, so they didn't have the new hope that came in the form of Luke Skywalker. Mandalorians, for the large part, have always been separated from everyone else, from the rebellion and Empire, even all the way back in the Old Republic. It's not so much that they're isolationist, it's more so that their ways just don't fit in with the rest of the galaxy. Once they get to the living waters, Bo Katan wants to give Din the full experience and reads the placard on the wall, which says, "These mines date back to the age of the first Mandalore. According to ancient folklore, the mines were once a mythosaur lair. Mandalore the Great is said to have tamed the mythical beast. It is from these legends that the skull signet was adopted and became the symbol of our planet." You can't see his face, but it's obvious that Din Djarin truly believes that this is a sacred act that he's performing. Even Bo Katan, who isn't taking this seriously, looks at him in wonder as he recites the oath, as if his devotion to the creed seems to inspire some faith in her. But as Din is walking into the water, he suddenly gets pulled under. Bo Katan jumps in to save him and finds him lying at the bottom of the giant pond, but she also discovers something else at the bottom: a living mythosaur. I didn't know that mythosaurs were actually real within the Star Wars universe, at least not in the Disney canon. All the living Mandalorians, like Bo Katan, treat the mythosaur like it's only a legend meant to make the first Mandalore sound like a badass. Out of all the things this episode could have shown us, I was just as surprised as Bo Katan to see a mythosaur. But the episode ends on a cliffhanger. And I gotta say that I think this is what The Mandalorian Season 1 should have been. Hell, you could still have had Din Djarin as a character, but I think he would have been relegated to a simple emissary of Bo Katan. But the series should have been Bo Katan going on adventures while teaching the audience about Mandalorian culture. Though I am surprised by Bo Katan's attitude towards the lore and rituals of her people. It makes sense that she's jaded, given what happened to her planet, her family, and her people, especially since her long quest to retrieve the Darksaber from Moff Gideon failed when it fell into the hands of a religious zealot like Din Djarin. But then, why would she try and retrieve the Darksaber if she views things like the living waters of Mandalore as a childish tradition? Why didn't she just tell the Mandalorians that they needed to be practical, get their shit together, and rebuild Mandalore? That they didn't need to have a magic laser sword? It's weird to me how she is proud to be Mandalorian, she's proud of her armor and heritage, but when it comes to the more profound traditions, she's resentful of the importance they take up in the hearts and minds of her people. This is in direct opposition to the beliefs of the Armorer, who has criticized Bo Katan for relying on her blood to rule Mandalore instead of using their people's faith and tradition, implying that that's why her rule ended in tragedy. And while we've known since the beginning just how strict Din Djarin's adherence to the way of the Mandalore is, no subject is best demonstrated as it is when it's shown in contrast to something else. The dichotomy between Din Djarin and Bo Katan is interesting because they are part of the same culture and adhere to the same creed. While Bo Katan wants to rule and see her civilization return to the prosperity it once saw, she lacks the convictions of someone whose motivations are tied to the beliefs of the Mandalorians. While Din Djarin, a zealous member of the Watch, has no interest in ruling or being a leader, but he'll do just about anything to adhere to the creed, including taking care of a Jedi baby and baptizing himself on a planet thought to be poisonous. It does make me wonder, though, if Din Djarin's faith will start to rub off on Bo Katan, or if her views will change now that she's seen a living mythosaur. I don't think I've said this about any Disney Plus series in a while, but I can't wait for the next episode. Tell me what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss out on a new video. Thanks for watching.